48 years old, just, pushing 50. People ask me, what keeps you going? I go, curiosity, I guess. I'm a Tonechaser. That thing you hear in your head that you just can't quite get.
Hello, everybody. How are you? I wanted to say thank you to all you guys out there who have been checking out Tonechaser, the audiobook. I think from your comments that you're really digging it. And in order for you to even appreciate it more, I want to give you a little bit of the backstory about how it happened. So I began working on the audiobook back in September 2023. I had met Tanner Poppet, a musician and documentary maker and engineer who actually lived literally 6 minutes from me in Lake Forest, California. So I would go over to his house about once or twice a week, usually arrive about 9 a.m. in the morning, so we would both be very fresh, and we'd sit down and start working. Tanner had a very cool audio rig set up in his garage. So we used a Shure SM7B mic, the same one that Michael Jackson famously recorded Thriller with. And that went into a 4-channel Behringer. Typically, we would try to get 2 or 3 chapters on a Sunday and a Monday, which is when we worked. Working in the garage, which wasn't insulated, sort of to a higher quality. We'd oftentimes get sounds of lawnmowers going on outside or cars zooming by or even loud birds tweaking. So we'd have to kind of pause and maybe rewind a bit, though there's no tape to rewind, of course, and go over that section again. It went pretty smoothly. I have to say that it was not an easy task narrating the book, reading my own words. Reading words and writing words are 2 different beasts. So as I'm writing, I'm trying to be poetic and a lot of alliteration and run-on sentences and long paragraphs. And when it comes time to read those, man, I would stumble over my tongue. I would trip up over words, that I would never trip up over before. When you're reading out loud, man, it's even a completely different exercise than reading to yourself. But at the end of the day, we got through it. I think all in all, it took us about 8 months. So while I'm working at Tanner's, Adam Roach, my wonderful friend, guitar player, podcaster, black belt, killer of people, was editing all of the content that was being sent to him via WeTransfer in Australia. So, we just tried to keep up the pace as best we could. I think Tanner and I probably only took off 1 or 2 sessions. A family thing might have come up or, some distraction. We went from chapter 1 to chapter 58 or whatever it was in a pretty remarkable amount of time. I thought initially it was going to take us over a year to get through it. But, we soldiered through and, we put it together. And I want to say that putting it all together and reading the words I'd written and reciting them out loud even made those memories come more alive for me. There were portions of that book that were really, really hard for me to read and remember and reminisce and recall those moments. And there were other moments, the majority of the moments that were, a joy to discover again. And, as I was listening to the audio, as I was putting it together to send to Adam, I was listening to all that again and remember what amazing moments Edward and I shared. So, I just wanted to, give you a little bit of the backstory. And to give you even a little bit more of an inside look, we're going to play for you some of the actual sessions from when I was recording with Tanner. So check this out. and I hope you dig it. And if you don't have the audiobook yet, you can check it out at mysoundwise.com. Just download the app, and then you'll be directed where you can find the Tonechaser book. So again, to everybody who has a book, thank you. If you don't have the book and you've dug the hardback, I think you will love the audiobook. I mean, it's really special. I don't believe there's ever been another audiobook like this that has been embedded with the actual archival audio from the subject of the book. So it was a long process. It was a labor of love. I had to find missing pieces of audio. Adam would contact me. Hey, where's the last 2 pages of chapter 14? And I'd have to go look for that audio to match up to that. And eventually we found everything. So I hope you dig it. Oh, one last thing. As the narrator, I wanted to find that balance between, being emotionally invested and going overboard and getting maudlin or getting soppy about it. You know what I mean? And that was a hard thing to do. I wanted to bring you, the listener, into the book. So it took me a little bit to find that voice, as it were. But I think I found that, and I feel good about it. And I hope that you're digging it, and I hope you'll check out the book. And so here you go. Steve Rosen narrating Tonechaser, the audiobook. Tanner Poppet Engineering, Tanner Poppet Studios. All right? Tanner Poppet Studios, excuse me. So see you, everybody. Take care. Bye.
And action. Oh, wait. You need it bigger than this?
No, that's good.
Okay. I'll give it to you.
Well, that's better.
I'll give it to you.
I mean, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Chapter 17, A Cat by Any Other Name, April 1983. On one of my trips to the Van Halen Bertinelli household, I was waiting for Edward to appear from wherever he usually materialized within the inner sanctum of the home. I was there in the kitchen with Valerie when she motioned for me to follow her. We headed towards some other room, and as we approached, I heard the mewling and whimpering of what sounded like a room full of infants. I thought, is Edward now a proud daddy and he never told me? I was confused. Entering the room, I saw that the sounds emanated not from human newborns, but feline babies, kittens. 4 or 5 of the most precious and tiny animals were rolling around and climbing over one another in a makeshift pen. Valerie asked, "Do you like cats? Would you like one?" If her previous Scrabble question had caught me off guard, this one stunned me silly. "I love cats," was what I told her, the same sentiment I'd expressed when she asked me about playing the game. I did. At the time, I had about a 1-year-old cat called Punk, and I'd always toyed with the idea of providing him with a playmate. She said I could have one, and I chose this fragile little black as midnight animal with eyes as big as quarters. Val said I could pick him up, and by the time the tiny kitten was cradled in my arms, I had his name, Valhalla. I thought it was genius. Val was for Valerie, of course, and Halla was a nod at Van Halen. You're maybe thinking, of course it was genius, you dipshit. That was going to be the band's name, and you knew that because Edward told you that. But here I plead total innocence and even ignorance, or more poignantly, memory failure. I had no recollection of Edward telling me that story some 5 years earlier about Mo Austin and how he thought the band should be called Valhalla. I didn't have even the slightest memory of that. Could a residual sliver have been left in my brain? Possibly. but I still maintain I came up with a name entirely independent of hearing it spoken many years earlier. I took Valhalla home, and the second I placed him on the couch where Punk was resting, they started playing with each other. Punk, of course, was bigger, though far from fully grown, and immediately began grooming his new friend and gently pawing him. I was awed by those animals. One Sunday evening, I was sitting there with both cats as they crawled and scampered over one another. One Day at a Time came on, and the most unbelievable thing happened. Little mini Valhalla stopped playing and sat staring at the television across the room. Valerie, as Barbara Cooper, was on the screen, and Valhalla jumped off the couch, ambled the few feet to where the TV was located, and perched himself in front of the screen. He was glued to the tube. Catatonic. I could not believe what I was seeing. Somehow, I thought maybe Val had somehow taught the animal that trick or conditioned him by constantly running episodes of her sitcom, but that seemed improbable. The next week, I was listening to some Van Halen album, and an even more bizarre thing happened. When the first song came on, Valhalla, who had been sleeping with his head nestled on Punk's body, immediately woke up. He leaped from the couch and began moving in time to Edward's guitar. The tiny creature was dancing, rocking out. Cat scratch boogie fever. If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it, and I didn't see it. I was just pretending, but how freaking cool would that have been if it had been true? Terribly sadly, little Valhalla passed away after only a couple of years of life. Terribly sadly, little Valhalla passed away after only a couple years of life. He succumbed to some horrific kidney disease. I cried for a long time. I never told Valerie what happened. Whenever I was up at the house and Val was around, she'd ask how the cat was doing, and I'd tell her Valhalla was fantastic, and try to keep from breaking down in front of her. I just couldn't bring myself to tell her, and maybe that was wrong. But by keeping the truth from her, I could pretend in my own way that Valhalla was still with me, and binge watching Valerie on his favorite television show while performing four-legged dance routines to the strains of Ed's guitar.
That was good. All right, chapter 17 is in the bag.
Except that I can't pronounce Valhalla. Fuck.
It's okay. There you go, audience. There's your little...
There you go. A little insight into what Tanner Poppet and Steve Rosen do 3 times a week.
Thankfully, we enjoy each other's company, you know?
Exactly.
All right. Let's try and get through this one without a mistake, Steve.
I don't make mistakes.
Only happy accidents? Is that what the term there?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do chapter 42. This is for all the special people out there who, this is a little bonus here. You ready?
Here we go. Chapter 42. You say it's your January 26th, 1986. On Sunday, January 26th, Edward's 31st birthday, Valerie invited me out to her parents' house in Broad Beach, a very elite neighborhood in Malibu, California, for a small surprise celebration. That was the first time I'd met Valerie's parents, Andrew and Nancy, and her brothers, Drew and Patrick. They were a very close and loving family. I remember Val had arranged for a beautiful cake, and while we all gathered around the table and watched the candles burn, Edward was hunkered down in one of the bedrooms burning down keyboard riffs on a synth he kept at the house for just such occasions. He eventually made an appearance for a few minutes, saw the cake on the table, blew out the candles, lingered for a second while the cake was being cut, and then retreated once again to the solitude of the bedroom. The only surprise was that he had even stuck around for that long. He didn't have a piece of cake.
Perfect. See? Who says
Oh, man. Those weren't mistakes.
That was good.
A portion of each audiobook will be donated to Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation, which was Edward's favorite charity. Thank you so much for your support so far for the text of Tonechaser, 3rd edition. And I hope you embrace the audiobook as much as I think you will. Okay? I'll see you guys. Thank you.